Happy Hallows Eve, all my trues, clues, guys and dolls, cats and kittens. I hope you enjoyed listening to the holiday Halloween story that I've spun for you all. This is the final scene, and we all get to find out who the perpetrator is. So, let's get started. So, all the participants had gathered in the seance room once again. The crime scene tape had been taken down so they could put it back in place once the seance had been completed. And everyone except for the deceased Professor Adam Buster, who had been at the head of the table, has now been replaced by Madame Zorba. And it turned out to be a cold and lonely night. The wind was howling, shutters were banging on the upstairs floor windows. They had all gathered at the table, and at the head, as I said, was Miss Zorba, followed at her sides by Sir Mix-It-Up and Miss Double D's. Then came Miss Buster, followed by Miss Polly Innocante and Grandma Seen-It-All Allen. The candles had been placed everywhere because the electricity was all but non-existent, so the room was dark and damp with very little light. Madame Zorba addressed the room. It was a very bad thing that the seance had not been formally ended prior to the breaking of the circle. So now the spirit that was trying to materialize and the professor's spirit were now bound to the house of cards. And this was very bad, as they needed to be able to cross over and get on to the next step of their spiritual lives. Miss Polly's eyes grew wide with fear, and she clutched at Grandma Seen-It-All's hands. Sir Mix-It-Up and Miss Double D's chimed in that they were ready. Miss Buster shakily stated that she did not want her father's ghost following her around. The sooner the better. Grandma Seen-It-All Allen eyes glowed with excitement as she wanted the seance to get underway. Then Madame Zorba started, and everyone joined hands. And Madame Zorba called to the spirits in the room, asking them to show themselves so that she could assist in their crossing over. They can move over to the next step that belongs in their spiritual life. Slowly but surely, a spirit began to appear and materialize. And don't you just know? It was Dr. Fix-It-All. And he slowly began to come into view. When he did, he looked around indignantly and asked why were they disturbing his rest, the rest that he was able to have that he needed for so long, the first time in 50 years that he was actually able to feel rested. Sir Mix-It-Up was like, "Doc, I'm so happy to see you. We have spent a lot of money to be here tonight, and it'll be worth every penny if you can help us save our daughter." Double D's chimed in with the Sir Mix-It-Up. "I know that you can help us save Lily Bell. Please, please, Doctor, help us. Where did you leave the cure for her?" Then she starts to cry as she sobs heavily into her hands. All of a sudden, there was another spirit that was materializing. Miss Buster recognized it right away. She was like, Dad, is that you?" And then the professor began to materialize before her eyes. Miss Buster could not believe it. Here was her dad, almost in human form, his face etched in anger, and he turned to his daughter. "I thought you told me Aldo was dead. If Aldo's dead, then why was I able to witness him at your apartment waiting for you?" Miss Buster set her shoulders back and put her head up. "So, what can you do about it, old man? And what's more, it's none of your business who's in my apartment. I'm an adult, and I pay my own bills, and I will have anyone over to my apartment I please, or sleep with, for that matter. Shut your trap, old man. I was here to see my mom, so you just move along." Professor Buster's eyes become aflame with anger, and he is now very suspicious as to what his daughter had been up to the last couple of years. Miss Double G's dumps in. Whatever you all are talking about, fighting about, step to the side. We have real business here. Nobody wants to hear about your shit. Sir Mix-It-Up nods in agreements. The doctor says, well now, I have to think about where I left that book for a moment. Everything is kind of fuzzy at the time of my death, as well as just before. I just need a couple of minutes to think, please. The professor then turns his rage on Madame Zorba and addresses her, saying, You old piece of wrinkled flesh, what have you gotten yourself into? Madame Zorba looks down her nose at the professor. You cannot blame me for your bad behavior that caught up with you after so many years. It was your decisions that got you here in the first place. If you were not so interested in finding out where the secret financial books were hidden for your pet society, the Sorcerers of Time. So, now that you can't make use of those books, where are those books now? The professor looks at everybody and begins to speak. He looked at her, gave her a sly smile and an evil smile, and replied, You have no idea what you're talking about, bitch. And then he turns on Miss Buster and states, Good luck to you in finding my money as well. Double D's looks at Miss Buster saying, Look, lady, I got you. But I need to save my daughter right now. So step back and let the doctor speak, everybody. And the doctor says, I'm thinking. Mix-It-Up is like, well, you better get your shit together then, huh? All of a sudden, the room grows very cold, and a gust of wind blows through the room, and then the ghost of Fifi La Clean begins to appear. Everybody in the room freaks out. Madame Zorba yells, Fifi! What the hell's going on here? Fifi, what happened? Fifi appears and can hardly speak. She is crying so hard. And then she begins to collect herself and says that she was strangled to death by her secret lover. I never told anybody about Carl, and since he got me away from being trafficked from the Sorcerers of Time, I thought he loved me. And she starts to cry again. But really, all he wanted to do was sell me off and keep all the money to himself and not share with the secret society. The professor crows. Stupid slut. Nobody ever leaves the Sorcerers of Time society. Not now, not ever. Miss Buster then yells at the professor. And who would know better than you and your friends, the way you pass my mother around? I don't blame her for killing herself. If I had been through that, I would kill myself too. Then Sir Mix-A-Lot steps in. He is so mad. His jaw is set, and the muscles in his chin are just going back and forth. He yells at the professor. It is because of you and your friends that Miss Double D's is plastered over every porno store window, selling her out to the highest bidder. You are less than the scum of the earth. You use and abuse and control. Asshole. Miss Double D sits stoically saying nothing. Then Miss Buster tells her father, You and all of your cronies, your secret ceremony, worshipping money like you did, and did what you did to get it. And she thought to herself, and not a damn thing is going to stop me and Aldo from getting together and spending that money either. Madame Zorba knew that she needed to get control of the seance. So she tells the professor, What is going on? Do you remember how you died? So that we can follow up charges and get the person who killed you put in jail? Do you remember anything? The professor said he just remembers drinking tea from a cup and that things began to go weird in his vision. His heart started pounding. He felt like he couldn't breathe, and then everything went black. So he was blaming the maid, Fifi La Clean. And then she turned on him. I would kill you right now if I could. You've got some kind of nerve. I know we had a thing, and you used it against me to get me into your secret society's sex group where you delivered me to the highest bidder. I was going to kill you in the most painful way and have a good time doing it. I had dreams of things that I could do to torture you. Had I not been killed, I would kill you again. That's when Miss Double D said, you mean like dripping him with honey and letting the ants at him? I, for one, don't care how he dies, just as long as he dies. So many women who had sex against their will for him and the Sorcerers of Time group just so they could earn a dime for their parties, drinking, and drugs. I wish I could have been the one to pull your plug, Professor Asshole. Madame Zorba, you really don't know who killed the professor? And the professor doesn't know who killed him? Why did you tick me into this seance? What are you after? What are you looking for? With a look of disgust, she was thinking how she had wasted her time with all of this seance bullshit. She wasn't going to make a dime off of it. All of a sudden, Dr. Fix-It-All yells, I remember. It was the journal. I left it at my athletic club, in the locker. Then all of a sudden, Carl burst into the room. Carl looks around at the group and he says, Oh, I'm so glad I could come in while you all are together. And he has a gun. He waves it around at the group. Oh, and here's Professor Dumbass, the holder of the keys to the palace. And the professor looks at him. Where's the Sorcerers of Time lockbox? Tell me, or I'll add Miss Buster to the list of dead people in the room right now. And I'll kill you all one by one. Spit it out, Professor Asshole. Miss Polly Incantante starts to cry. Grandma Seen It All squeezes her hand and holds it tightly. And Carl tells Professor Buster, spit it out. I will then be in charge of the Sorcerers of Time, the money, and all the power. The professor spins on his heel angrily and looks at Carl and says, Stupid man, how dare you challenge me? And for that you shall pay. And he jumps on Carl, who starts to scream. Professor Buster enters his body through his mouth, and Carl begins to implode and dry out. And just dries up and falls to the floor. Nothing but an empty husk. Everybody in the room, they just stood there looking and shaking. The lights started flashing on and off. There was a great wind coming through the room. It was like a tornado. Madame Zorba yells, Do not break the circle! And just as quickly as it started, it ended. The room was dark. Madame Zorba quickly ended the evening seance and requested that they could let go of hands. She went to go light the candles. No sooner had she finished than there was a knock at the door. And it was Detective Solvacase with the toxicology results. Ha 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 ha. And so it is. It turned out to be Carl. Carl was a baller. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope I did my family justice. And happy Halloween. Ha ha ha.